Hi, I'm Gretchen from Retreat House. I'm very excited to be here with Cynthia Helton, one of our new poets, who has contributed 4 beautiful poems to the House of Courage book. And Cynthia, we're starting by asking everyone, how did you get connected with Retreat House?
Well, it's real interesting, Gretchen. I attended a one-day retreat there that Father Ray Ball had sponsored, and this has been at, at least 2 years ago. But while I was there, I made a little donation and I signed up for the email. And all this time, I keep getting emails and things. And the only reason I haven't been more active is because I live a long way away from that facility.
Mhm,
And so, I just didn't. But
mhm.
fortunately, I kept getting this information and reading it and interested in it. So that's really how I first got connected with Retreat House.
Yeah, Ray is a very important fixture at Retreat House. So
Yes,
he's also very special to me. I always learn so much from him.
yes, I agree. For me too. I've known him for years, and
Hmm.
he's filled a slot in my life that nobody else could fill. So.
And have you always been a writer? Is this a more recent thing in your life?
When I was a kid in high school, I got involved with it was called original oratory back then, and
Hmm.
I wrote it. My first thing I ever wrote was at that time, and then of course life gets in the way and children and all kinds of things, and I kind of put that aside. But as I've become older, especially since I've retired, I have a lot more time to think. And so for a while, I guess it started about 3 years ago or so, I started writing a blog,
Hmm.
and it was very well received. But you know how things happen, and it kind of fell off by the wayside. But here lately, especially in the last year or so, I've gotten into it. And instead of writing blog or essays, I've I've turned a little bit more toward poetry, which I never really was drawn to before. So anyway, that's how that happened.
Wonderful. Well, so that's a perfect segue into, I understand you're going to read your poem, The Prayer Shawl, which is the concluding poem in House of Courage.
Okay, and I want to just as a little way of information about the prayer shawl that
Absolutely.
might make it more interesting. This is a conversation that I had with
Mm,
yarn, and it was between us, and how we were both, the yarn and I, were
mm.
transformed in the knitting of this prayer shawl. So,
Wow.
okay,
Beautiful.
so I'll read it now. When I first met you, I was drawn to your color, your texture, the feel of you. The bamboo wands were ready to conduct us on our journey. Neither of us could fathom the look of its completion. Inch by inch, our dance began, fumbling at first as we struggled to find our rhythm, anxious about mistakes. There was no rush, no demands from either of us, yet a longing settled in to reach our destination. Months passed, familiarity grew, our souls became friends, our pace increased. Then from another shore, a presence called, first a whisper, then an urgent plea. Comfort was sought, shelter required. Our destiny was at hand. The day we parted was bittersweet. As the blessing was imparted, we knew we'd never see each other again, except in the echoes of our memory. Your transformation will tangibly wrap a being in warmth and love. My own will be more sure, more steady, more ready to start again.
Mm. That's so beautiful. So are you a knitter then?
No, I have knitted one shawl and I've got three-fourths of the next one. If you ever read my bio, I like words, I like art, I like cooking, but I do not know how to sew on a button. And so when I was invited to this group of prayer shawl knitters, it was laughable. And but they are patient and wonderful and started me on my way. And I only know one stitch, but I can do that stitch. And so I will continue because the end of it is so meaningful to people. it's not like you're just making a neck scarf. It's something more meaningful. And so I like things with a purpose. So yes, I can do that one stitch in knitting.
Well, and that's such a beautiful metaphor. So many of us in life, like we think it has to be this big thing, but you know, if you can do one thing and do it well, and you just keep doing it, look at the miracles that you create. Like, sounds like you did one prayer shawl and you're almost done with another one, and no one using those prayer shawls is going to look and say, oh, she only had one stitch. And no one is going to do that.
No, they're going to look at that yarn and the texture of the yarn. And I think it's very meaningful to people, because when we give these prayer shawls, they usually have no idea who made it for them. And sometimes it's even a surprise that they get it. And I think that just makes it all the more special, you know.
And so how did you get up your courage to start knitting a prayer shawl with I happen to be a horrible knitter and a horrible sewer. What was it that allowed you to say, like, yes, I can do this?
Well, I had been away from the church for a little while, away from community people. And I needed to do that again. And I found this group of people, and one of them actually is a master knitter. I live in Waxahachie, and, you know, we've got lots of little craft stores and things like this. And she's a storyteller, and she's funny. And we would meet before all of this at the coffee shop and laugh and everything, and laugh over, I had knitted 3 rows and got frustrated and ripped it all out, that sort of thing. Anyway, but they're patient, they're funny, and I just felt community. I felt community, and again, a purpose of what I was doing. And they are just so patient, you know. And
that's beautiful.
It made me feel like it did not matter if I dropped a stitch. It just didn't matter. It was the process. It was the process, the journey.
Yeah. And so we're asking all of our authors, what does courage mean to you in your own life, and how does that show up?
Well, thinking about courage, I've always pictured myself as not being courageous. As a child, I was a big scaredy cat, afraid of the dark. Play that forward. I was a single mom, and I had to be brave and courageous. And I've always, it's always been kind of an issue with me about being brave. And then it kind of went from not situations, but brave and speaking up for myself, or brave, you know. And actually, when I write, it's to give myself courage. It's like it's my conversation with God, and then God seems to reply. And sometimes I'll read back over what I've written, and I'll say, who said that? Who did that? Did I do that? Surely it wasn't me. And it wasn't me. It was God. And he was talking to me, you know. He was talking to me. And so, you know, I feel like sometimes you don't want to be egotistical, and you don't want to pat yourself on the back. But you know what? You also don't want to deny your gift. And sometimes I know that I'm a okay prayer shawl knitter, but I do enjoy words and find meaning in it, and hopefully, you know, that kind of plays that blessing forward a little bit. That's the goal anyway. Yeah.
Well, and you have a tremendous gift of words, and that's, you know, what you speak to is one of, I guess, the intentions and the hopes of these House of Books, that in sharing our stories and our struggles and our vulnerabilities, that then other people see themselves in that, and that allows them to then move forward in their lives. So as we move towards let's plant a seed here, as we move towards our next House of Book, we certainly hope that you will contribute more of your beautiful poetry. It's like we've just discovered another jewel for the tiara or something like that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I do think that in any group, a new voice now and again, it just stirs up the juices to help everybody else do a better job. And I'm hoping that I can contribute in some way in the future. So